And here we are once again. It's Friday. It's rolled around again. Happens every week, doesn't it? And, well, I can't think of anything more witty to say as a preamble. I'm just going to have a swig of me beer. Cheers, everyone. This week, I will be mostly drinking this stuff. Galeriux, Galeru, I don't know. We have a new Lidl in Redcar. If you don't know what Lidl is, if they don't have them where you are, it's basically a discount supermarket. And this is obviously their kind of Stella knockoff. 4.6%. We'll refer to it as Harley Benton Stella, shall we? Yes, I think that makes sense. Let me just see if I can get this shine off me noggin without making it look too dark. That'll do. So how is everyone? Hope you've had a good week. It's been, well, basically just another week here. It's just been sort of head down work. And then, after 12 hours of that, a couple of hours of TV and a couple of beers, and then rinse and repeat the next day. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. Let's have a look and see who we've got in and who's teacher's pet this week. First in, it's Dave Fiendish. Well done, mate. Then David James, Rent to Kill. Oh, you've lost your crown there, mate. Fiend Tunes is in, so is Terry Day. And Peter Collins. Balder64 is there, so is Malcolm Spillett. Dave Snacks Stevens in a sunny Dorset. Yeah, it's been... Oh, excuse me. Yes, it is a bit gassy, this stuff, I will warn you. It's been sunny here today, and then about an hour ago we got hailstones, and now it's sunny again. Who else we got? We've got Grandpa Joe saying, looking forward to the time change this weekend. It only screwed up with the Friday stream time. Let's cut to the chase. Joining John's Patreon supports the channel. Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you. The check's in the post. Now, look at how dark I am now. That's just... let's give it a bit more, like that'll do. You might need some sunglasses because of me bald noggin, but we can manage. We've got Peter Nicholson, Stephen Polk, Paul Trainer, BSc, the resident bass player. Ben Allmark is there, so is John Ross, Joe McMurray, there's Anton. Gordo Canuck from a foggy Calgary in Alberta, Canada, but unlike English fog, it is -6. You go out every day in Calgary, no matter the month, with a parka, umbrella and sunscreen prepared. Yeah, it can be a bit like that over here, mate, as well. It's if you don't like the weather, just hang around 10 minutes. It's bound to be different. Have I said Jimmy James? If I haven't, I just have. There's Stephen Hedger, and he's saying, looking forward to the chat and the beer. Been having a blues fest today. Does anyone know why Strat sounds so good when it's tuned down half a step? Been getting in touch with my inner Stevie Ray. I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard this before from many people that, somehow tuning down to like E flat gives you some kind of improvement in tone. But sometimes it's on a Strat. People say. Other times people talk about, insert name of any kind of iconic guitar. I've done it, and I've never noticed any difference in the actual tone. I've got to tell you, but if you do, then good for you. We got Mickey Walnuts, excuse me. Dudley Squat, Eric Luttinger, Frank Bolam, Dr. Gomez 1. We got PFY guitars, and let's have a little bit of a look down here. There's Jimmy James. Have I said you already, mate? I can't remember. And Steve Entwistle is in, so is Autogeddon 1, Amadeus, and Johnny Random. Cylon Hybrid is there, so is Doc Alders, and yes. It's almost 5 o'clock. It may not be Crackerjack, but it's a cracking good way to start the weekend. Yes, Crackerjack. There's a blast from the past. Kids game show from the 70s, anyone that doesn't remember it. Session guitar legend Gary Shaw is there, so is Peter S., Chris Ottewell, and Rexomatic, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. let's just put this up. I might as well mention this now. Good morning from Phoenix. Curious how many people are planning to attend John's Red Car gathering in September so far. September the 19th. Stick it in your diary if you're coming. Looking forward to meeting you all in person. Any vinyl record listeners attending? Well, I can only speak for myself. I lived through the misery of vinyl once, and I'm not keen to do it again. Anyway, but yes, September the 19th, the Red Carmageddon, so it has been meet up. It's a Friday, and we just basically have a few beers and go to the pub. At some point, closer to then, because, you know, you possibly don't know your plans that far in advance, if you could let me know. So I've got some idea of numbers for, you know, kind of making the reservation at the Curry House. And, you know, then we can all have a rather wonderful time. What else have we got? Who else have we got? We got Johnny D, we got Nathan, we got Thomas Mulvaney, we got Austin Barrett, we got Vincent Brennan, Cal B, and the Rocco Cat. I'm going to be talking about you in a moment, mate. Let's just put you up on screen now. I have to thank everyone who's responded to the GoFundMe campaign launched by my YouTube buddy in Canada, J-Man. Yep. Yes. If you don't know the story about Cal B, I'll update you. I'm sure you do, but there's bound to be one or two people that have it's bypassed. I'll update you on all of that, and probably Cal will in the chat anyway. We got Paul Taylor, we got Robert Forsyth, we've got Ardis Bubba. I hope I've pronounced that right. Good evening, John, from is that Dolzell, South Carolina? Just all of these exotic places that you know you guys mentioned in the chat. You know, it's just you know, growing up in the UK, you know, we hear terms like South Carolina and New York City and all this kind of. It just seems so far away and magical and mystical. And here I am, fat lad with a bald head, sat out in the sticks in a little town called Redcar in northeast England, and I get to chat with you all on a Friday. Isn't that fantastic? I think it is. Colin Falcon is in, so is Francis Chambers, and we got Robin Fawcett, and who else? Let's have we scroll down. William Forrest and Ravensmead. There's John Little, Jimmy James. I've said you already, haven't I, mate? For some reason, your avatar just looked different then. I know what I need to do. I need to just head off over to the YouTube side of things, and which means I need to turn the speakers off, or I'll get feedback, and I need to make Cal be a mod because he's got a link to put in the chat. We've got John Channing, we've got Searching for Tone, nice to see you, mate. The Essex Cat is in, so is Gear View Mirror, and we've got Anders Nyback and guitar, we've got Robbie F, we've got Eva Dunstan, we've got Robbie F, and who else have we got? Well, that's a Bill Mumbo, and there's Malcolm Spillett again. Steve Cassidy is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget Steve's video straight after this live stream, 6 p.m. UK time, where I believe, in a break from tradition, Steve is doing a HSS themed video. I believe it's a HSS shootout. I was wondering when you were going to get round to doing a HSS themed video, mate, especially a comparison. You know, just kidding. We've got Mr. Chris is in. Steve Cassidy saying, congratulations to you, John, and the townsfolk of Redcar on your brand new Lidl. I tell you what, saved me a bunch of money this week. I went and did a fairly kind of, not a huge shop, but it was a trolley full, and it was 65 quid. That would have been thick end of 100 in Morrison's. Have I said Jay? How young? Anyway, there's Maria Muggs Davis and Steve Muskie's back. Nice to see you, mate. Where you been? Long time no see. There's Ollie M as well. And Triple X Paps is in. And anyone else? Anyone I haven't mentioned yet? Theme Tunes, yeah, he's already booked his digs for Red Carmageddon, so if you want to meet the illustrious Mr. Theme Tunes and hear some of his anecdotes about his time in the business, then get yourself up on September the 19th. Mr. Chris is saying Jarrow exotic. Yeah, I wasn't including you, mate. No offense, but Jarrow is is not exotic, is it? If you find Jarrow exotic, then may I suggest that you just raise your expectations a little. Let's have a look. The Lamb is just in from a hard day at the mill. Great to see you all. Hey, John, says the Lamb. I'm going to try and catch you all live tomorrow night, mate, because I think my missus will probably be watching some awful stuff on. I mean, what's that Gladiators thing that she likes to watch? I cannot be in the same room with it. Well, there being severe risk of breakages, but there you go. Anyway, I've got some little bits of admin to do, so I'm just going to make. There you go. As of now, Mr. Calby and the Rocco cat, you are now officially a mod on this channel, which means you can post links in the chat. Calby, his best mate is a cat called Rocco. And Rocco's been under the weather a bit lately. Rocco kind of ingested some stuff that he shouldn't have ingested and had to go for some life-saving surgery. And he's doing fine now. Stitches out yesterday and he's back home, and I've seen a little video of him. He is the picture of health. And but unfortunately, it's left Cal with a rather large, chunky vet's bill, for which he was going to have to sell his guitars. So a good friend of his, as we've already established, J-Man, another YouTuber from Canada, set up a GoFundMe. So if you can afford to just chip in, I don't know, just however much you can afford to chip in to the GoFundMe, I'm just going to post the link in the chat right now. There it is. There's the link in the chat. If you can just help Cal just not have to sell his guitars, because he was fully prepared to get rid of his beautiful guitar collection to pay off the treatment that his beloved Rocco needed. But let's see if we can get him over the line, shall we? Anyway, excuse me. Beer. Let's have a look, see what's been going on in the chat. Oh, before we do that, I'll tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. There's me kind of taking the mickey out of Steve Cassidy for a HSS shootout. Guess what I've got coming up on Sunday? A HSS shootout. You remember that Player 2 Strat from last week? Well, before I gave it back to Sean, the very kind chap who loaned it to me, excuse me, I made another video with it, comparing it to another HSS guitar, namely this one here, this rather nice vintage V6, courtesy of a chap, very kind chap called Jim. It was 3 single coil Strat, as you know, but I put a Hot Wheels in the bridge, and just because I had 2 HSS style guitars in the office at the same time, I thought, well, that solves a problem for a Sunday video, doesn't it? And I just did a little bit of a comparison, and you can hear what they sound like. I think Sunday's video is another Dougal video where you get to see Dougal the dog doing Dougal the dog stuff. So that's Sunday's video. Monday, as you know, on Mondays these days, I'm alternating between melodic rock and blues, and it's the turn of blues this week, this coming Monday. And we're looking at, well, not exactly a typical, but not an unusual blues chord sequence. It's first of a couple of videos that I've got in that theme, and how to play over it. It's a chord sequence that can trip many people up, and unusually, it got past the copyright wombles. Normally when I do this chord, it's the chord sequence from Need Your Love So Bad, basically, that chord sequence. But because I didn't do it in the key of A, I did it in another key. It kind of snuck under the copyright radar and didn't wake the wombles up. So we're happy about that one. And it's basically how to play over that chord sequence in, because there's a few twists and turns in it where you got to tread carefully. So we're looking at that on Monday. Tuesday's video it's a top 5 video, and this has been one that's been bubbling away at the back of my head for a while, because and it was going to be it would have been so easy to make this an angry, ranty video about stuff that I don't like on YouTube. Things that other YouTubers do that really get on my throat-knees, the things that grind my gears. But I tried to think, I thought, no, John, be positive about it. And this is kind of, these are the 5 things that I will never do on YouTube. And, well, that's a bit open-ended, isn't it? 5 things that many other YouTubers do that I don't really feel comfortable doing, shall we say. There are plenty of things I wouldn't do on YouTube, fill in the blanks. But these are just the 5 things that you see a lot of other people doing that I just think, nah, I wouldn't want to do that. And if you want to know what they are, watch on Tuesday. Then Wednesday is another track from the album, the ongoing saga of the album. Got an announcement coming up about that in the near future, so keep your ears and eyes peeled for that one. This week it is just a bit of pure, unbridled, grunty rock. Okay, there's a big old catchy riff at the beginning, and there's some twiddly soloing, and there's some bluesiness, and there's a catchy melody in there as well. All the things that I like to listen to, basically. That's what I'm doing when I'm writing these tunes. I'm writing the kind of tunes that I would like to listen to myself. Ironically, once I've written them, I can't bear to listen to them because it's like one of the weirdest things you'll find, right? I don't know if there's a few of Steve Cassidy. That's what John Robson's OnlyFans are for. Yes, that'd be a brave bunch of souls, wouldn't it? Yes. But yeah, it's one of the weirdest things when you start making YouTube videos for me is when you're editing the video, you've got to spend a fair bit of time listening to your own speech. And that's not comfortable. That's not nice. I really don't like doing that. I've learned to kind of just be okay with it, but it's not a fun thing for me. It never was. And then on Thursday, a little bit of a comparison. You might remember a few weeks ago I did a video about the MXR Rockman thing pedal that's just recently been released. Thinking, I wonder if I could get that kind of tone out of stuff that I've already got, like Guitar Rig, I think I used. Well, blow me if somebody didn't get in touch and say, I've got one of those Rockman pedals, do you want a loan of it? So, of course, I said yes, and I made a video comparing my creation of the Rockman tone based on sort of my perception of it and my memory of it from listening to countless Boston albums over the years, and the actual real thing. And the results are surprising. And I'm going to leave it at that. If you want to know how come they're surprising, then you're just going to have to watch on Thursday. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is what's coming up on the channel this week. I'm just going to have a bit of a swig of beer, and then I'll catch up with a chat. Right, what's going on? Oh, it's Darren Myers. Darren is a student of mine and will be having a lesson tomorrow. So I'll try and be over me hangover by then, mate. That said, I don't tend to get hangovers that much. What are you saying there, Balder? Despite being 6'7" is a total lightweight. So who's up for a pint in town prior to Red Carnage? Red Carnage now, is it? Pub crawl on the Saturday too. Yes, lightweight. Well, I've been called worse, I suppose. Dr. Gomez is saying, our cat ate some spring onion leaf, thinking it was grass. Was that 1,700 that cost me? He's insured now, the little bar steward. Yeah. Having had 2 dogs so far that have had quite serious conditions. Cassie, our dog before last, she was a border collie and she had really bad epilepsy. And that ended up being what took her in the end. But then Taylor, our previous dog, another border collie, He came down with like a really nasty bout of pancreatitis that could have finished him off. It didn't. But the treatment for both of those conditions was not cheap. Thankfully, we'd had the foresight to have pet plan insurance. And I'm not acting as a shill here for pet plan. I'm just saying it how it is. To my knowledge, pet plan are the only pet insurers who, will pay for ongoing conditions. Some pet insurers, once you get to the end of an insurance period, the end of a year, then any pre-existing conditions are excluded from the renewal of the policy. But that's not with pet plan, and that saved us a bunch of money with those two dogs. So Dougal is covered by pet plan. What else we got to talk about? Jimmy James is saying any carving neck through players there. Carvin and Kiesel. I've only ever played one Carvin guitar. That was before they changed the brand to Kiesel, and as I've said many times, it was a guitar that you picked it up and you thought, oh, okay, I can feel where the money's been spent here. Graham Campbell, oh dear me, have you seen the news that GAC may be closing down? They've taken the website offline suddenly. That would be a loss, wouldn't it? We are sadly accustomed to the small local guitar shop, the kind of place where we always used to hang out. In my case, it was, first of all, it was Hamilton's on Grange Road in Middlesbrough, and then it became the Middlesbrough Music Centre on Gilk Street. Yes, spent many an afternoon just hanging out in there. Just small local kind of places with, in those days, of course, no online presence. We're used to those disappearing, but somewhere like GAC, let's just have a quick open a new browser tab and guitar amp keyboard. Our site is currently unavailable. Yes, I bought many a guitar from them, and one thing I will say about the guitars I bought from that venerable establishment is that they've always turned up really well set up, and that's not something that you can take for granted with a lot of online retailers. Budget Pedal chap is saying that vintage is HSS, but the H isn't capital. I see what you did there, mate. I see what you did. Is that I don't keep up with these things. When I did the video recently about humbucker size P90s, I was informed that they're called P94s. That's the first I'd heard of it. So is that a thing now? Is that an official thing where, if it's a single coil sized humbuckers, it's a lowercase h, or is that just something you've made up, mate? Right, let's scroll down to the newer section of the chat to see what I've been missing while I've been looking at the older stuff. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one there. When that thing where you click on something and in the instant between you thinking I'm going to click on that and you actually clicking on it, the web page shifts and you've ended up clicking on something entirely different, and then you got to say to the missus, I didn't click on that. Yeah, that's just what happened to me then. You're welcome to add me as a mod, says Andy Mulani. A moderator, walk with me, Tim. On the I don't know if you're talking to me there, mate. But let's see what else we've got. And then we'll get on to this week's selection of pictures. Gary Shaw's saying, Mickey Walnut saying the Gak shop in Brighton is closed for 7 days for maintenance. Yeah. And Gary Shaw's saying that they're looking for a buyer at present. It's in the business news. Yeah, it's all adding up to the same sort of thing, isn't it? These aren't activities taking down a website and closing and listing for sale that a business that's in a healthy state tends to do, is it? But yeah, it'd be just sad. Mr. Chris is saying we lost JG Windows. That was another venerable Northeast institution, wasn't it? And Peter Hall's in the house. Hi, how are you, mate? Where are we? Let's have a look. My lad's Mott the Hoople is saying my lad's best mate came over the other day as I was strumming, and he said, "Oh, my new dad's girlfriend Cliff is a pro guitarist. Apparently, his brother was a fairly famous one. His name was Gary." Okay. Sorry, that one's lost on me. Maybe I'm just being a bit dense, but which is not beyond the realms of possibility. What you saying there, Boulder? Put together a pub crawl that runs the length of the town. Real ale, craft ale, minimum requirement for the disciples. Real ale and craft ale. Well, craft beer is I think it's just overpriced. Wee. There, I've said it. I almost said something else. Cliff Moore, Gary's brother, says Michael Purcell. I didn't know that. I didn't know Gary had a brother called Cliff. I've been a fan of his for many a year. But there you go. You learn something new every day. Johnny D's saying, I just made a purchase from Guitar today. Fingers crossed. Well, yeah, I think you'll be all right, mate. Dudley Squat is saying, family-run Cosmo Music in Toronto is currently liquidating after 60 years. This is something that is going on. I know that just the used market is absolutely dead as a doornail at the moment. One of the things I used to do, and I've explained this many times, is buy a guitar, make a bunch of videos with it, sell the guitar nominally at a loss, but the revenue from the videos would mean that I was overall, on the right side of the line when it came to where I wanted to be financially. But, it's just, you can't shift anything these days. People just aren't buying. I suppose it's a symptom of, the state of the economy, but I don't want to talk about that because that is only a hop, skip, and a jump away from talking about matters of a political nature, and I just want to keep this a free from that kind of thing zone, if I'm honest. Michael Purcell is saying his son Jack is a musician also. Yeah, I saw the Jack Moore thing when he was talking to Captain Anderton. Anyway, chaps, shall we have a look at some of the pictures that you've sent me? Because it's getting to be that sort of time of day, isn't it? I just need to... where are we? There we go. I just need to open a folder. And inside that folder, there's another folder. And inside that folder, there's another folder. And inside that folder, there are some pictures. And I'm just launching the first one now. And, oh, this is a nice one, as you will see in just a moment. So, share screen, and here we go. This is the one. Right. This one comes from Bill Forwell, and this is one of the many pictures that he sent me. And this is his vintage V52 BS reissued. These vintage reissued series guitars are just the absolute dog's dinner, aren't they? The dog's danglies, that's what I meant to say, which means they're good, basically. If I was just to do, let's just zoom in a little bit. If I was to do that and say, look at that classic Telecaster there. That is, for me, it's something like that you picture in your head when you think of a Telecaster guitar, and they're fantastic. I've got one here, a vintage V75, is it? That was, again, sent to me by a very kind chap called Jim, one of the two guitars that he sent me, and that's become my go-to guitar when I want that pure, unadulterated 50s Telecaster tone. Absolutely fantastic. Then we've got Brian's pair of Les Pauls. I believe we've got a Les Paul Standard here, and then a Les Paul Studio with some Seymour Duncan Fat Cats in it. And just, I mean, that picture there, does it not just look like the ultimate rock and roll rig? That, you know, a pair of Les Pauls propped up against a Marshall JCM 800. That's just, you know, and we talk about guitar porn. That is guitar porn right there. That's just absolutely an iconic rock and roll rig, I think. This is David Roberts. You may have seen a few weeks ago, he shared a picture of a Hamer that he's currently doing up, and he's going to be doing some upgrading to. Well, this is just like a work in progress kind of thing here. How it's going: frets removed, fretboard sanded and stained black. That's going to be just an occasional thing that we drop in from time to time when we see how that build is going. But that's the state that it's at. Well, not at the moment. It's probably beyond that now, but when that picture was taken. And this is one from Derek Stopperton. This is his Fender 40th anniversary Strat in Midnight Blue. He did apologise for the state of the picture. This looks like it was one of those pictures that was taken where you used to have to take the film out the back and toddle up the high street to your local Boots chemist branch and wait a week for the picture to be developed. Lovely looking guitar, you know. Just again, it says Midnight Blue there, but that looks in this picture here kind of black. It's got that sort of Eric Clapton blacky vibe going on, hasn't it? Lovely thing. And speaking of Jim, the chap who didn't sell me, he gave me, what am I talking about? Sold me, who gave me the couple of vintage guitars. These are some of his guitars. What's not a duo but a trio? A trio, that's it. Couldn't think of the word then. Of J&D guitars. We've got an ash white Strat, a Charlie Christian style neck pickup telly. To my knowledge, I've never played a guitar with one of those pickups in, so that's an itch I'll have to scratch at some point. And then his older bodied telly. Jim has a lot of guitars, it has to be said, and a lot of basses as well. We haven't even scratched the surface of his bass collection. That'll be coming up in a few weeks, well, in the coming weeks. Malcolm Spillett, this is his Sire H7. Lovely guitar. You know, I mean, the Sire Larry Carlton H7 is the guitar that Larry Carlton uses on the road. It's a 335 style guitar that's good enough for Larry Carlton. And it was the fact that I had one of those, and I seldom played it once the novelty had worn off. So it was like, well, if a 335 style guitar that's good enough for Larry Carlton, Mr. 335, doesn't really kind of get my juices flowing, I guess I'm just not a 335 kind of guy. But honestly, these guitars, they absolutely rule. They feel, the Sire Larry Carlton range, just the necks on them are absolutely astoundingly good. If you've never tried one, I beseech you, try one. And then here's, I always say, send me pictures of your current rig, whatever it is you use to make music. And this is from Mr. Chris. This is the little mini PA that he uses to ply his trade in the drinking establishments of Jarrow and the surrounding district in the northeast of England. I was in a duo, it's got to be about 12, 13 years ago, and we used to, it was just me and a girl singer and some backing tracks. And this is the exact pretty much the exact setup we used to use, and just used to all kind of fold into a handy little kind of easily carryable package. So yes, thanks for sharing that, Mr. Chris. And this comes from a regular viewer of the channel and one of my students as well, a chap called Podrig, and this is his Hondo from the 70s. I believe it's the 70s. This is one of the ones that was made in the Matsumoto, that factory at least. And doesn't that just epitomise what kind of a 70s guitar looks like? And he absolutely swears by it. A lot of my students, what they do is they send me kind of progress reports in the form of them jamming over a backing track or playing a particular solo that we've been working on, or that kind of thing. And every time I've heard this guitar, I've always thought that's a beautiful tone. And it is lovely looking guitar, and it plays nice as well. And Podrick absolutely loves it. Moving on, we've got Paul Taylor's recent acquisition. This is his Greco TE600, made in Japan, 1974. Does that class it as a vintage guitar? If it's, I suppose it does. It's from the 70s, or is it only kind of guitars with an F word or a G word on the headstock that are classed as vintage instruments? But this is, he recently got this and he's very, very happy with it, reportedly. Another student of mine, or ex-student of mine, is a lad called Spencer, and his dad is a good friend of this channel who's loaned me guitars in the past, with maybe one or two more of those coming this way. But these are Spencer's amps. What we've got here, we've got a JCM 900. God, I feel really old. I remember the JCM 900 series coming out. We've got, what's this at the top here? Is that a WEM of some description? Watkins Electrical something or other, and the cabinet there, and looks like a pair of Fender modelling amps down there. So yeah, Spencer's well taken care of when it comes to his amplifier needs, and canny player as well, has to be said. I remember from when he used to have lessons with me. And there you go, chaps. Those are this week's Readers' Wives, if you insist on calling them that. Let's just have a little bit of a vape. Got a new flavour. I'm on the caramel at the moment. The place where I get my liquid from, if you order over a certain amount, they give you a free bottle. And and I just thought, well, I'll try the caramel, and I'm quite liking it. So I might order some of that myself. Anyway, let's have a little bit of a look back up the chat, and I've got a viewer's tale for you coming up shortly. Balder 64, this looks fruity. I knew a guy down the pub who worked in the chemist, and he kept all the nude holiday pics he was meant to destroy and used them to select some to shows whenever he recognised the lady that walked in. Oh, that's naughty. Yes. We all know people like that, though, don't we? Dr. Gomez is saying, it's finished. I'll send the pictures. Oh, Dr. Gomez is, yes, you're David Roberts, aren't you? Yes. It's like when I get a screen name and an actual real name, I sometimes fail to connect the two. But you're going to be sending us some pictures of that hammer. Thank you so much, mate. Jay Young is saying, nice amps. Classic telly goodness. Where are we? Jay Young is saying, wow, 30 minutes went by already. It does fly, doesn't it? It has to be said. Cal B saying, another great bunch. Is the WEM a dominator, perhaps? Probably. I don't. It sounds like a kind of name that sounds about right, doesn't it? All of that Watkins and WEM stuff, believe it or not, I'm a little bit too young to remember that. When I first started, everybody was talking about Hondo guitars. They had a really cheap entry-level guitar called the Hondo Rainbow, which was like, I believe, a bolt-on neck Les Paul copy that was available in a bunch of day-glow colours like bright blue and bright green even. And the amp that you aspired to was usually what was it? It'd probably be a Carlsberg or something like that. Carlsberg amps, whatever happened to them? Right, I need some more beer. Hang on. Ah, dear me. Ravensmead is saying, ever played PV amps in the 80s, John? I have indeed. The PV Pacer I played through. And who hasn't played through a PV Bandit? To me, if I was to, which I'm not going to, but if I was to go out and gig again, it would probably be a PV Bandit that I'd choose, because they sound fine. I mean, you're never going to kind of say it's the best tone in the world, but they do the job. And they've got, well, the last one I had was in about 2009, and it had 2 channels with like different voicings on each channel and a foot switchable boost, so which you could apply to each channel. So that's like essentially a 4-channel amp. And that trans tube thing that they've got dialed in sounded pretty convincingly and felt pretty convincingly valve-like. As I say, it was a usable, great kind of tone. It was you're never going to kind of think, oh, this is a divided by 13 or a Dumble or, a Dr. Z amp or anything like that. But it was a usable tone, good enough for the band I was in at the time. And it was simple to use. The Boss Katana has sort of taken over really as the go-to amp for the working pub band musician. But I still think there's a place for the PV Bandit, because it's for a crusty old dinosaur like me, it's a lot easier to navigate your way around. It's the thing that puts me off the Katana is all those kind of dual concentric pots that do different things. When you just have to make a hurried dash to the back of the stage just to quickly adjust something, it's. As I say, I'm a bit sort of technophobic, and I found it a bit not as user friendly as the PV Bandit. Anyway, let's crack on with this week's viewer's tale. This one comes from a stalwart of this parish here, Mr. Jimmy James. And he's saying, "Hi, John. Not sure you'll want to relay this in the chat, but thought you might like the story. It's not about a rock guitarist, but a Western swing guitarist, and my biggest regret. I do like a bit of Western swing. Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, etc. Anyway, he was saying, I was a young man raising a young family in northern Canada. I followed an ad for some property I wanted to see. The real estate agent was an older gentleman. The topic of guitars and music came around, and he asked me if I'd heard of him, which I hadn't. His name was Les Carrot Top Anderson, and he'd said he'd played in Western swing bands without getting specific. We chatted about it, and it came around that he was selling his Telecaster Thinline SS, so I bought it out of curiosity. I enjoyed listening to Western swing from time to time, but I didn't play Western on the guitar. I didn't have an understanding of the people involved in the genre, so I dismissed Les in my mind. I was still in love with the Gibson tones, not Fender tones, not really understanding how to use my PV amp to coax tones out of the telly. I couldn't get the tone I wanted, and within a few years had sold the telly and bought a Les Paul Custom. Years later, with a deeper appreciation and understanding for Western swing and with internet access, I looked Les up. Turns out he was a steel guitarist in both Bob Wills and Spade Cooley's Western swing bands. These bands were the giants of the Western swing genre. Now I could see the significance of Les's part in the Western swing. From what I recall, it was likely a later model, not vintage at the time, but the value is it was Les's telly with his legacy. That telly had a story. So it's by far my biggest regret that I didn't that I let Les's telly get away. Have a great weekend. Cheers, Jimmy James. Yes, yes. There's always that kind of thing, isn't there? It's just the ones that got away and the ones that you didn't realise the significance of until they got away. But another guitar player that ranks highly on my list, and I might have to do a video about him at some point, is another guitar player who was with Bob Wills's band, the Texas Playboys, a chap called Eldon Shamblin, an absolute master of chord melody playing and just that whole sort of mashup between kind of jazz and country, which is essentially what Western swing is. Western swing is like country music, but jazz versions of country music with without like the jazz horn sections and stuff like that. I know the mention of jazz and country probably isn't selling it to some people, but if you want a great intro to that style of music, if it's just go on to Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you can listen to music for free, so you don't have to invest anything other than your time, and check out a band called the Hot Club of Cowtown. Cow as in moo, town as in town. The Hot Club of Cowtown. I'm absolutely addicted to their stuff at the moment. It's just so infectiously happy music, just such good time stuff, and just that it's that sort of virtuoso kind of music where you only notice the virtuosity when you're listening for it. The rest of the time you're just having fun, tapping your toe and kind of singing along with it. Let's have a look. Gary Shaw's saying Hank Garland was the Kipper's tits. I'm having that one, mate. I'm going to use that one. Kipper's tits. I do like that one. Gary Shaw is saying Eldon Shamblin had number 2 or 3 Strat ever made. I didn't know that, mate. I knew he was a Strat player. I knew he was an early adopter, and I believe he had some sort of kind of relationship with Leo, because Leo used to kind of take his prototypes out to local musicians and say, "Here, play this," and tell me what you think. What was he called? Speedy West. Was Speedy West? I can't remember, but anyway, it was Speedy West, wasn't it? That was an early adopter of the telly or the broadcaster, as it was back then. Gary Shaw is saying Boss Katana sounds like a cornflake packet at volume, as I found out. That's surprising, mate, because I've heard nothing but good reports about them. I had one in here, gosh, it's got to be 6 or 7 years ago, and I found it a massive faff about to get it to record to the PC, because you can kind of use it as an interface. And I just remember thinking, this is just too complicated for what it's trying to do. But as a standalone, I've heard nothing but good reports about it. But you're the professional gigging musician, mate, so you would know. As I say, the PV Bandit would get my vote all day long, because it's made by PV, so essentially it'll work underwater if necessary. Johnny Random saying PV Bandit 112s are going for about 200 quid on eBay at the moment. Yeah, and they're great. They're great. It's just the last proper band I was in about 2009, 2010. I did a little duo thing after that, as I was saying earlier. But the other guitarist in the band was also the singer, and he had like a Marshall DSL kind of thing, 2B12 and an amp head, and he had all the gear. I wouldn't say he had no idea, but he had all the gear. Big pedal board, wireless system, which in 2009 that was like a status symbol, wasn't it? And we were rehearsing in this little practice room. And it was like this place where there was a bunch of different practice rooms, and you'd meet other bands in the foyer and stuff like that. And we were rehearsing in there, and in a practice, basically some of the other guys from one of the other bands came in and heard us rehearsing, and in the sort of in the practice room with a kind of tangle of cables on the floor, plus he's on a wireless system. I'm doing this solo, I think we were doing Thin Lizzy, Dancing in the Moonlight. That was one of the songs that was in the set, and I did the solo. And one of the chaps from the other band came up to me and said, you're getting a great sound out of that Marshall, aren't you? And I said, actually, I'm plugged into the PV. And he was a little bit surprised at that. Those PV amps are fantastic, I think. Johnny D's just bought a second-hand Blues Deluxe. Can't wait for it to arrive. Been gassing for one for ages. Too pricey new, but at $550 I had to take a leap. That's a good price for one of those, mate. Well done. Let's have a little bit of a scroll down. Also, we've got GRB Aquatics in. Nice to see you, mate. I didn't notice you there. Steve Cassidy is saying, used to gig my PV Bandit back in the day. Unfortunately, it wasn't loud enough to keep up with our drummer. I think the earlier models were built a bit different and different and louder. Well, they've been around for define earlier. My little, I think they're an 80-watt amp, aren't they? PV Bandit. Not that you can. I know you can't measure volume in watts. It's as the old saying goes, valve watts are louder. But that little PV that I had never used to have any problems keeping up with the drummer, even when he was kind of crashing away on his China Boy cymbal, which he used to love to do, or the eardrum perforator, as I used to call it. Oh, dear me. Dr. Gomez, what you're saying there? I put a Texas heat in my PV Bandit 112. It sounds great, but added to the bloody weight, though. Yeah, it will do, won't it? Michael Purcell is saying, have you counted how many bands you were in? That would be really difficult because I was in some bands just for one night. When you work on the club circuit in this part of the world, you have to work through an agent. It's like a closed shop. And bands I've been in, we used to work through either the Frank Feeney Entertainment. I wonder if they're still going. We used to work through Joey Borra, and we used to work through Vipon's Variety Agency. And what was common practice back then was, in this part of the world, you have a lot of lads who kind of work offshore on the oil rigs, or you did back then. So the guitarist would be out of action because he'd be out in the middle of the North Sea. So the agents would ring round other bands and say, can your guitarist do a gig for us, this weekend? So oftentimes that would be me, and I'd be, because if my band or the band I was in at the time didn't have any work in the diary, I'd be out and probably the keyboard player and everyone else was getting the same sort of things. But I'd get a call off the agent and say, can you learn a set for Saturday night? This will be on a Thursday, and you got to learn a full set by Saturday. And yes, you'd have crib sheets and cheat sheets on stage and stuff like that, but you'd always kind of be able to busk it and get through. So in some cases, I was in a band for one night. Does that make me a band member or not? I don't know. I suppose I was a dep, really, wasn't I? Graham Campbell saying, sounds like Phoenix Nights. Phoenix Nights, for anyone that's never seen it, sitcom in the UK about the working men's club, social club scene in the north of England. That's pretty close to being a documentary. It really is. There's clips of it on YouTube. Go and check it out. Peter Kay, comedic genius. He was the brains behind it. So yeah, go and check out some episodes of Phoenix Nights. If it's Phoenix Nights, if you like a laugh. Blue is saying one night makes you a professional session player. I suppose it does, really. My mate Steve Hoggett, who's sometimes drops in on the live stream. He's just a musical polymath. He's, I think he's head of music technology at Middlesbrough College, and he's a bass player. He's a studio owner. He's a record producer. He's pretty much done every job in the music business other than catering manager, and he's probably done that as well. But the pinnacle of his career was that he was the bass player in Shawaddy Waddy for one night when they played a gig at a nightclub up this neck of the woods, which I think is long since gone, called the Mal. And they played there. Their bass player couldn't make it, so he stood in for, well, I say he stood in for them. He was, they didn't have the Shawaddy Waddy teddy boy suits that they used to wear. They didn't have one that fit him. So he had to sit off stage with a monitor and like a music stand and just read his parts and play along. So, yes. Great stuff. Anyway, where are we? We're in the dying seconds of the game now, so let's just see if there's anything else we need to kind of talk about. Ravensmead is saying Southern rock bands always seem to like Peavy, heavy and bright. Famously when Lynyrd Skynyrd reunited in the late 80s, that was all Peavy gear then for them, wasn't it? What are you saying there, McQuay? Mwcard. I do apologise. I have a PV Bandit 112 Transtube. It's a red stripe. It's one of the last PVs built in the US. It's very versatile. I don't know how this has turned into a bit of a PV fanboy fest, but I've just never played through a bad bit of PV gear. Don't think I've ever owned a PV guitar though. Maybe that's something to look into. Rent to Kill is saying, is there any more news on the Fattercasters caps yet, John? No, not yet. I've been sprinting for the finish line with the album, and that's been taking up all of my time of late. So everything else, I must admit, has taken a little bit of a backseat. But watch this space. I will get into it. I will put some Fattercasters caps up on Teespring or wherever else I choose to get me print on demand merch from, because I'm not loving Teespring at the moment, but I haven't got the time to go into why. Cal B, let's put you up there, mate. Again, huge thanks to everyone who's responded to the campaign. Rocco is doing very well and is demanding attention again. Oh, yes, we know that. Vincent Brennan is saying solid state or Valve. Funnily enough, I just did a blog post today for the Patreon Tier 2 people where I address that question, and the answer is I really don't care. I think I use the expression, I don't care if my guitar tone comes from a digital algorithm, a 12AX7, or it could come from pixie dust and unicorn farts for all I care. It just, what matters is, do I like the sound of it? And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us, I reckon, to the end of the stream for another week. Thank you once again for turning up and watching a fat, bold northern lad talk absolute bollocks for an hour. It's been a blast, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.